Hi, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to write a fact-based book, how to come up with an idea, finding a publisher, and a few practical ideas on how to actually write the book itself. My overall goal is to share a bit of experience that I've got in this topic and help you if you want to write a book for yourself. There are some practical elements that first-time writers might not be aware of when writing a fact-based book as opposed to a fiction-based book. If at the end of this you've learned a little bit about the differences, then great. And if it helps you take those first steps to writing your own book, fantastic. So why this topic? Well, I've actually written and had published by an official publisher a fact-based reference guide. And I'm also writing a fiction book. Going through these two processes, I'm discovering there are some differences. I'd like to share these differences with you. So, as I said, we're going to talk about how to come up with an idea, how to find a publisher, a key piece there, and some practical tips on how to actually write the book itself. So, having gone through this experience, I'm going to share some of those pieces as we go through this. But the first one which I'd like to share is you don't need to go and buy a book to tell you how to write a book. If you go to a bookstore, there are lots of, there's an entire section on writing. If you needed a book to tell you how to write a book, how did the first book ever get written? No one told that first person how to do it. We've developed it over years and there's some good advice. But really the core thing when it comes to writing a book, particularly a fact-based book, is knowing what you want to write about. So that brings us to the first topic, how to pick a topic. When writing a fact-based book, you need to know what you're going to say. You don't have to know every word on every page, but you need to know the subject. Are you writing a history book? Are you writing a foreign language book? Are you writing something about how to do something in a sport? My own book was it was a how-to guide for rifle shooting, technical target shooting, the kind of thing you see in the Olympics. I've done this for 20 years and I've been coaching different teams and so on. And I decided that I wanted a book to help support my coaching because there wasn't anything available out there. So I picked a topic that I knew about and I picked a topic that I was interested in. That's really the only advice that I can give if you want to write a fact-based book on picking a topic. Because if you don't know the material and you're not that interested in it, you probably won't finish the book and your reader will be able to tell that you're not that interested and they'll certainly know if you're not knowledgeable. So pick something you know and pick something that you like. Excuse me. So the second piece, and really this is an unusual step that not people don't really know about when thinking about writing a fact-based book, is when you've got an idea, the next step is actually to look for a publisher. And you might be surprised as to why I say that, because most people have heard stories of authors who've written books and sent them off to publishers, and for years and years they've been rejected until finally got their big break. That's true for fiction. It's not true for all fact-based or reference books. If you want to write a book on military history, you need to find a publisher first. And the reason being is a publisher is going to want to select and sell a book that fits with the range they already sell. So if you want to write a military history book, find a publisher that does military history. That will help you. You don't need to write a book and then go to them. Publishers like books in a style. If you have a certain style and it doesn't fit with them, you're going to have some troubles. If you find a publisher first, they can guide you on the style. A couple of other benefits of finding a publisher first is that they can do a lot of the editing, and they will, again, because it wants to fit with their style. They may also help provide indexing and give you advice on layout, graphics, and so on. They won't write the book for you, but they will help because they want to make money from you. So the difference against fiction is when you write a fiction book, you've got to finish the book and tout for business. When you write a fact-based book, you're selling yourself. You're essentially going out to publishers and saying, hey, I know this topic, I'd like to write about it, would it fit into your range? How do you do that? How do you find a publisher? Well, the best advice I can give you on this is go to a bookshop, find the books that are in the style that you want to write or about the topic that you have or in a similar genre, and look inside the cover. they will all have their publishers listed, and then email them, phone them, write to them, and find out what you need to do to submit. Reference book and fact-based book publishers are open to submissions if you ask questions, and then they will likely tell you what they need and what they expect from you. So the publisher will tell you, usually, write a synopsis, give a brief breakdown of your book, and then what it's about and why you are qualified to write it. I don't speak French, so I would not be a good person to write a how to speak French book. I do shoot rifles, I've coached rifles, I've coached teams and shot at a national level. I've done this for 20 odd years. I'm qualified to talk about shooting. So I wrote a book on shooting. Again, wouldn't have written a book on French language, not really my forte. So you've written to a publisher, you've got accepted. The publisher may come back and say, yes, we like your approach, it fits in our style, and they may contract with you. The next step is how to actually write the book. Well, there are lots of ways to write a book. Some people will say, write everything you can think of down, write quickly, write slowly, practice your grammar, go to book clubs, talk to friends. It's very personal, so I'm not going to tell you how to write your book, but I will give a couple of tips that worked for me. I wanted to know, I wanted to give information in a fact-based book, which meant I had to have some kind of structure. So I wrote out a structure on this book, and I wrote out my chapter headings, and I knew I wanted to start at the beginning with, what is a rifle? In fact, I went a little earlier than that and said, what's the history of this sport? Followed by, what is a rifle? And then, how do you use it? If you've got a topic, have a flow. What are the questions you want to answer in your book? So create a structure. Jot down your chapter headings. You'd probably have done this already in the synopsis. Have a rough breakdown of what you want each chapter to achieve. If it's a fact-based book around fly fishing, what do you want chapter 3 to be about? Is it about how to put bait on a hook? In which case, write that down and do a little structure as to what you want to convey to the reader in that section. A really great thing that helped me, and I've discussed with some other authors and helped them, is write down the questions you want to answer in each chapter. So you end up with a chapter heading, you've got maybe 10, 15 chapters in your book. You then have a list of questions inside each chapter. The next thing to do is answer the questions. Once you've got your structure and your questions, answering them becomes the easy bit. You're the expert on this, you've got the knowledge, you know what you're talking about. Get on and write it, and you'll find that the flow comes together quite well. You can do a bunch of editing, and you can get help on grammar and all that sort of stuff from elsewhere, and there are lots of books that can help you with that. But piece of advice I would give, do your chapters, write down the questions you want to answer, and then answer. So that really brings me to the end. I could talk about this for quite some amount of time, but what I wanted to make sure is that we've covered 3 things today. One is how to get an idea, and that's know what you're talking about, enjoy what you're talking about or what you want to get across, and then write about that topic. Then find a publisher. Key difference between writing fact and fiction books. Fact, you get a publisher first. Fiction, you get a publisher second. So find out that publisher and use them. They'll help you. And then the third thing is how to get that content down. Again, we're not talking about different writing styles, but a couple of things that may help. Have your chapters worked out. Write down the questions you want to answer in each chapter, and then answer them. And that's really all there is to it, which makes it sound nice and simple. Hopefully this has given you some encouragement as to start writing. If it has, great. Thank you very much for listening.